Questions. We have tons of them. What if some of those questions can be answered with a simple email? Now is that time, and welcome to Chat with Charlie. Host Stephanie Lynn is a certified spiritual life coach and psychic medium. She will work together with Spirit to answer both your submitted and live questions. Not only will Stephanie be providing you with insight, but also interviews with amazing guests. Now, your host of Chat with Charlie, Stephanie Lynn.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You are watching Chat with Charlie. I am your host, Stephanie Lynn, on WLTK-DB Let's Talk Radio. I'm really excited today because I have a really good friend and a colleague coming on as our guest today, and we're going to be talking about ascension. And I thought she would just kind of be the perfect person to bring in with this because we've gone through so many classes together. We understand operating in what I'll call the normal 9 to 5, but then going through, good morning, Tristan, thank you for tuning in, going through the ascension or the spiritual awakening. So I would really love to introduce you all to a Psychic Medium Dorothy. Maybe. She's backstage. She was reading the minibar behind stage. So we'll give it our network just a second to pop her in. And until they pop her in, I want to talk a little bit about what is ascension, right? Because we hear this. We hear spiritual ascension. We hear, oh, you're leveling up. What does that mean? Good morning, Erica. Really, it means you're going through an awakening, a spiritual awakening, going through the spiritual education process. And so it can be tough, right? Because think about, even in school, you go through these lessons, you go through these things that are very difficult, and sometimes you feel alone, which has been one of the wonderful things for me in having these friends and these colleagues that I have made to come in, because I don't feel alone. And I feel like I have that support. And that support it's phenomenal. It's very important to have that.
Here I am.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I am so glad to have you on, everybody. This is Psychic Medium Dorothy. She is just fantastic. So before we kind of touch on our journey through spiritual ascension and explain to people, the steps and the processes and the side effects, tell everybody about you.
Well, my name is Dorothy, and I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and kind of lived in different areas away from Madison, and then kind of migrated back. And along the way, have done various different things. And now I work in Madison and do other fun stuff in the meantime. And I know that's very vague. I didn't know,
that's okay. Yeah. What brought you into wanting to understand and work with your spiritual abilities?
Well, I guess so. A lot of people, and myself included, sometimes like a big event kind of kicks off an interest. And so when my mom died, like 8 years ago, that's kind of when things started happening for me. But my mom was a person who was open to spiritual things as well. And way back when I was much younger, she's from the Boston area. And so she took me to the Tremont Tea Room in Boston, which is like kind of an institution. It used to be. And there was this person in charge of it. And so she and my dad had gone to the Tremont Tea Room in one of its incarnations, and they had gotten a psychic reading through a tea leaf person, like when they were first dating.
Yeah.
And so then it was kind of like a tradition that whenever they went to Boston, my mom I'll go to the Tremont Tree Room to get a reading. And so she, being very brave and trusting, she took me as a teenager
Neat.
and everybody else to this Tremont Tea Room. And so I got a reading. And now whenever I go back, I try to find the Tremont Tea Room location, wherever it is, and give myself a reading. But when my mom passed away, I was in Milwaukee. I was just starting nursing school. And so I was in this like tiny studio apartment in
Right.
Milwaukee. And it was the day before she passed away, but we all knew that she was, because it was expected.
Okay.
And so I was kind of like, it was my first week of nursing school, so I was just getting used to the routine. It was a big week for me. And so I was in my room, I was just kind of taking it all in, and I felt like kind of starting to feel really quite sad.
Right.
And so I was looking at in my studio. I couldn't look too far because everything's right there. But on the top of the closet, which my bedroom was like half in, so I had a bed like half in my closet, half out.
Right.
I was like standing on top of my bed, and I noticed what I thought was like one of those washer things that you put like on a bed. Like I
Okay.
thought it was from
Yeah.
the bed, but it was actually this butterfly ring. It was like this coin that had a butterfly outline on it,
Okay.
and it was a blessing ring, and it said "Keep smiling." And
Wow.
I had just moved in there, and I don't know how it got there, who placed it there, but that
Yeah.
is exactly like what I
What a
needed at
beautiful
that time.
sign. Absolutely.
Right, and it was just kind of somewhat miraculous, I thought. And I'm not one given to, like, flights of fancy, but it was
Right.
kind of an astounding thing to find, and it made a whole bunch of difference in how I processed my mom's death and how I felt about it,
Right.
because at that moment, I was like, "Wow, like, I am not doing this by myself. There's other
Yeah.
things out there that I might not
Absolutely.
know about," but I felt an intense level of comfort, actually.
Yeah, and I love how you discuss finding that trinket and that ring, because you have this innate ability, and I always crack up when you
Mhm.
tell me like the random things that you find.
Yeah.
It just, I mean, you have found like, and literally, guys, she will be like, "Oh, Steph, I was at this stoplight," and I'm like, "You found something at the stoplight?"
I
It,
did.
yeah, and I don't remember if it was like a card laying in the
It was
road
a
or
card.
yeah.
Um, I found actually, I sometimes find random playing cards with my
Right.
travels. I found the 2 of clubs one time, and then a jack of, I can't remember the suit, but then a 3 of diamonds.
Yeah.
But these are over a course of like a year. And the
Right.
3 of diamonds, the 3 of diamonds, they were at a stoplight that I was at, after getting my tea at Quick Trip. I was at a
Yeah.
stoplight and I saw this card just laying there. And so I actually did get out of my car. The light was red, and I grabbed
Right.
it, and I was super excited because usually they have meaning. So I go home, I
Right.
look up the spiritual meaning of that card,
Mhm.
and I can't remember if it was the 3 or 10 actually of diamonds. I think it was the 3. But it had a meaning for my life at that moment too.
Yeah. I
And
think
so
that's
that
so,
was
because
cool.
you are so, it is, and you are just so in tune with like realizing like these are messages from spirits, and just these things that just come into you. I always love hearing your stories about what you find.
Yeah.
It
I
is
also find
fun.
lots of random stuff that has no meaning either. But
Right.
sometimes I find some cool stuff.
Maybe you were like a fairy in a past life, and that's why you just collect random
I don't
things.
know.
I love it.
Actually, another funny story is that, so I was going to Boston, and I was in Boston, and I kept thinking, how cool would it be to find $100 on the streets of
Right.
Boston? And I could do so many things with that $100 bill. So I visualized really hard this $100 bill, finding it and being super excited. So what I actually found was, first of all, I found several cards from the patron saints of like lost causes,
Oh, neat.
and they were wrapped around a credit card receipt for $100.
I love that.
And I was like, "Thanks a lot, like, at least you
Yeah,
have some humor," but it was like,
right,
I guess
yes.
I'm not gonna find that $100. This is your way of
No.
saying, "No, good luck with that."
Well, and spirit, I think, is amazing at, like they're validating for you. Hey, we heard you. This is
Mhm.
what you're manifesting,
Right.
but here it is, and I had a
Yeah.
very similar experience recently. We were at a raffle,
Mhm.
and the point, it was called, it's a loser's raffle. So the point is you want to make it all the way to the end and be the loser because you can win the highest amount of money within the
Right.
raffle.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of walked around and looked at the prizes that were on the table. And there was because some, the prizes are everything from super awesome to silly, or, it's a wide spectrum of prizes. And there was a blaze orange hat sitting on the table. And I picked it up and I said to my husband, I'm like, I really want to win this blaze orange hat, and
Mm-hmm.
laughed about it and set it down and kept walking. And so they sell 200 tickets for this raffle, and they're going through and they're calling, and we're at like 160 and we haven't been called yet. And I'm like, wow, we have a pretty good chance, we're getting
Yeah.
closer. All of a sudden our number's called. So I'm like, I go up, the prize in it was that orange hat. And I'm like,
yay!
oh my God, and it was so funny because I was, making a joke, but it was that same thing, like, all right, spirit, I get it. Like, got it. You heard me, and
Mm-hmm.
it was, they do have humor. And I'm glad that we're finally at a point through our ascension where we can
Yeah.
start seeing the humor in some of these things.
Right. Yes.
And so for the viewers, and keep popping in messages letting us know you're listening, saying hello. If you have any questions about your spiritual awakening, your spiritual ascension, please pop it in there. We'd be happy to be helpful. But I was reading this really great article, and in it the author talks about 5 types of spiritual ascension. And they are the awakening of the mind, awakening of a new personality, awakening of your spiritual energy, awakening of the soul, and then your total awakening or your enlightenment. Hello, Kelly. Oh, yes, thank you. I know that had I love that story. Thank you for tuning in today. And I don't know about you, Dorothy, but when I think about ascension, and I do feel there are defining steps, but I feel like, at least in my journey, I kind of bounce around between where I am within my ascension, and
Mm-hmm.
when they talk about like the awakening of the mind, it's that sudden realization or that epiphany of, whether it's changing your perspective or your mental understanding, but that's like the gateway.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And and like for you, I would think it could probably be defined as, your mom transitioning, and that change in that perspective of
Mm-hmm.
what it means when somebody transitions, and just kind of how we look at it, how we view that.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say when you look at the awakening of a new personality? Because I think this one is huge. Good morning,
Mm-hmm.
Michelle. Good morning, Diana. Because sometimes we don't realize, as we go deeper, as we start to examine self, that new personality traits, we shed some, we bring
Yeah.
on new ones. What have you noticed has changed the most about you throughout your spiritual awakening?
Well, this is a good question for me actually, because I think if I hadn't had all of like the spiritual work that I put in, like through taking classes with
Right.
you, is I wouldn't have in my professional life, I don't think I would have wanted to go further
Right.
because I think just like the kind of wanting to know more and do more and being mentally in that right space to think of
Right.
those things. And so stepping and being okay to step into that role, being like, yes, I can do this. Um,
Absolutely.
and then when you're in that role and then realizing that you're like, oh no, I'm in this role.
Right.
I have to do all
It's
this
like you're
work.
looking around for an adult and you're like, "Wait, I'm in charge? Who left me in charge? This is not a good
Right.
idea."
And like all those years of being like, they should do this, they should really
Yeah.
do this. And now you're the person who has to do that. You
Right.
can't just like sit back and be like, oh, hey, I'm just gonna keep typing on my computer. And
Right.
so you have to kind of jump into action. And I am not really innately that person that will be like, this is the decision I'm gonna make, this is what we're gonna do. And so I think kind of being more I don't know, outgoing, but a bit more forthright and
Right.
kind of standing in my own kind of, I don't know how to say power light, but kind of becoming more myself, or
Yes.
adding to myself, instead of kind of not being this like kind of shy in the background person. I'm kind of
Right.
being more out there. And it's definitely not a 1 day process. It's more
Oh
like a
gosh.
continual process of
Yes.
like learning a lot from how people perceive you and getting hopefully good constructive feedback, and then moving forward with that. I
Yeah.
mean, yes, of course, when you get that feedback, you might be upset and be like, I can't believe that. Like, I can't believe
Right.
this is, but then you have to take the responsibility of incorporating that into your next action, so that people know that you're listening and you're also
Right.
listening.
Absolutely. And I think when people and I'll have people say that to me, like when I open up and I'm like, yeah, I'm a psychic medium, and they're like, oh, that's so amazing, and they have all these great things, but there are negative side effects that we process through
Mhm.
in these awakenings. It is not like all unicorns, fairies, and dead
No,
people. Like there
no.
there's a lot. And I look at, especially with coming into this new personality, and I've kind of bounced back to this one right now where I'm at in my journey, because I feel like, as you develop into who you're still becoming, we have people
Mhm.
that come into our lives, we have people that leave our lives, and it's I don't want to say that we can get shunned, but as we're creating and trying to reach for our wholeness, we're also letting go of a lot, and we're losing a lot. There's
Yeah,
people who don't grow with us.
right.
And it's like a grieving process. I was
It
talking to one of my
is.
students about this, and you're grieving your old self, you're grieving the loss in those relationships.
Yeah.
Have you found that as you grew into more of your wholeness, that you have had to let go of some of those friendships?
Um, I think that I'm usually pretty good at keeping in touch with people, but
Yeah.
I've noticed lately that I keep in touch with certain people, that are like my really good friends,
Right.
and then I don't maybe put much effort into the people that, I hate to say this, but they don't catch my interest,
Right. Right. Or
or like that,
acquaintances kind
or
of thing.
acquaintances and things like
Yeah.
that. And so I think as I've gotten older, I've kind of just winnowed down who
Right.
I will go to.
Yeah.
And, but I think when I was younger, I would definitely try to keep those friendships afloat, even if they had no benefit for me. It
Yes.
was the need for that particular, just having people.
Yeah, having the connections. And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of where I'm at in grieving, is letting go of some of these connections, realizing things are changing. Um and really, to all of our viewers, if you are going through any of these symptoms or side effects, or again, you have questions that you're not understanding about why things are going on in your own ascension, please pop them in so we can help you.
I was also really lucky in that, sorry to interrupt your train of thought
No,
there. I was also really lucky in that a lot of, like, my family and friends have been very supportive when I do share,
that's
um,
great. Yeah.
my journey, and so I haven't really had anybody be like, "This is awful, like, I can't be your friend anymore," like, I've not
Right.
had that, and I think that's unique. I think other people have.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think too, as we move into like the awakening of the spiritual energy. So it's one thing to start having these thoughts, and it's one thing to start developing more of our personality and who we're becoming. But when we really start understanding and feeling our life force, that energy within us change, that is like, it can be mild, it can be like extreme.
Mhm.
And I feel like as you move more into the energy, that you become more aware of it. And so then you start basing and connecting with people
Mhm.
energetically versus, maybe it's intellectually, or however you were connecting before. And that also creates a shift, because it's almost like that magnetism, we're
Mhm.
pulled towards our tribe. Does that make
Right.
sense?
That does make sense. Yeah.
Do you feel like as you have become aware and worked with your energy, that you are starting to attract like-minded energies into your circle?
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. Like I kind of maybe I self-select too,
Sure.
because of things that I'm looking for and whatnot. But like sometimes if people talk about something that I'm kind of like, oh God, this is like I'm so over this conversation.
Right.
I'm not necessarily interested in like talking to them more
Mhm.
about that, or I just have a different take on it. And I might
Yes.
say, oh well, this is a different way of looking at things. And I find that sometimes people don't like really hearing that. Um,
Right.
and so that kind of does kinda kibosh on whatever.
Yeah, and I've noticed that too, because I have found that as my energy has changed, and even as, what we're gonna talk about next, like the awakening of the soul, you start to see less singleness and more wholeness, which I
Mhm.
think allows us to see things from a bigger picture or a bigger
Right.
perspective.
Yeah.
And people get frustrated in that because sometimes we can be so hyper focused
Mhm.
that and even there's even times where I'm more open to people's opinions and I can respect their opinion and I know I don't have to take it on as my own,
Right.
but that people just are not open to those conversations.
Mhm.
Have you experienced as you were going through your energy shifting, because this is where people could start seeing, mood swings, things like hypersensitivity, insomnia, which I still suffer from,
Mhm.
loss of appetite. There's so many altered states physically that shifts in our energy can cause. Did you
Right.
ever experience any of those, or do you still experience any of those?
I'm a pretty even-keeled person in general,
Yeah.
and so I didn't really have any, like, major, mood swings per se. Sometimes I might have some insomnia, but not often.
Right.
But sometimes for other people, I have heard that they had go through a lot of physical manifestations of kind of their growing process.
Yes.
But it wasn't terrible for me so much.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for tuning in. That, for me, I think the worst has probably been, and hopefully my husband's not listening because I'm going to admit to having mood swings. But I notice that it's more because I'm very empathetic. And
Mhm.
before I could figure out why, because I could tell this isn't my emotion, but why am I feeling this? And it was that swing in that energy that I was picking up from others and, conflicting with my own energy. And I think sometimes we don't have that self-awareness to say, "Oh wait, this doesn't really belong to me. So what's going on? Why was I just happy? Now I'm very frustrated. What flipped that switch? What made that happen?"
Right.
And that's something I've noticed with myself. And I also, I said like the insomnia, and I see, some of our other viewers too. Tristan is saying insomnia is one of their symptoms as well. And for me, in that insomnia, it's like I'll wake up with like these random questions, and it's more of wanting to develop or connect with spirits. And so
Mhm.
it's like slowing that mind. One thing that I've learned, and I don't know if that's what affects Tristan, is I'll say to spirit, can we talk about this like when I'm supposed to be awake? Or,
Mhm.
can, and,
Right.
learning that you can ask them that you don't have to be up from 12 to 4 in the morning, because then once you get your mind going into this way, well, then I'm not going back to sleep anyway, so I may as well get up and clean or do
Right.
something.
Do something.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's what's happening to you, Tristan, but just giving it over to spirit, asking them to come back, letting you rest, and then, making sure though that you set aside that time to connect with them. So we are going to take a quick station break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about awakening of the soul and that total enlightenment, and then some more of the how do you know you're going through a spiritual awakening, and some of those side effects that we may feel physically. So we will see everybody back in just a minute.
Certified psychic medium Stephanie Lynn creates an authentic connection between the living and the spirit world. Stephanie knows she is here to help heal, educate, and provide validation that there is more after death, and allows herself to be a conduit and work as a team with spirit to pass on messages from their world to ours. Stephanie Lynn also works as a spiritual life coach to help you achieve, create, and manifest your best self and life. Looking for help communicating with an animal? Searching for a past life regression therapist? Or dealing with a paranormal experience? Stephanie Lynn is here to help. For a list of full services, visit her on Facebook under Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive. That's Stephanie Lynn Spirit Sensitive.
Welcome back, everybody. It's about 27 past the hour, and this is the Chat with Charlie show on WLTK-DB, Let's Talk Radio. I am your host, Stephanie Lynn. Today, I am being joined by Psychic Medium Dorothy. And if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the process of ascension, leveling up, that spiritual enlightenment, how it can be both a positive thing, but also have some maybe negative side effects. And I just want to say good morning, Veronica, or afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us from the UK. We're so glad that you tuned in today. So let's talk about awakening of the soul. You know, that I think that connection of understanding that there's more to life and realizing we are a soul within a body, and kind of letting go of that ego, you know, seeing everything like we were just talking about from that bigger picture. How do you feel like when you started becoming more aware of the need to fulfill your soul versus the need to fulfill what's going on in the psychic world? How did that shift start to happen for you?
Well, I think kind of around the time that I took first class, because I really wanted to take a class, and I was looking
Okay.
for the right teacher, and
Yes.
it felt like this, like I need to do this for myself. So I was looking for opportunities, and they were offering it at the store that I go to a lot, and so I signed up for it, and then that kind of gave me a guidance on like how to take this journey and what I can incorporate into my life and the practices that seem to
Right.
fit really well. And I had this sense of like kind of contentment with like, this is how I do, and this is how I connect in this way that I want to connect. But it was like a guided thing for me. So I wasn't kind of out there on my own, because I had someone guiding me through it that had people in the class that I could talk to about it as well.
Right.
So that was really helpful for me.
I think so. And I want to pop up Diana's comment on here, because she says too, she finds it interesting when people I don't expect to be open to it are. And
True.
isn't it? And we've
Yeah.
kind of found that. And you know, Dorothy, I mean, I had this huge fear of what are people going to do when they find
Right.
out?
That
Like,
was a
what's
big
going to
thing for
happen?
you. You
It
were
was.
very worried about it.
I was. And there's still times where I'm like, oh man, here it goes. Here come the torches, you know, the
Right?
pitchforks. But I have really found that, and it happened kind of organically again the other day, and somebody that, and I knew they knew, and I was very honest about it, and they had said they're like, wow, you know, I really wish I'd have known. Do you do house clearings? Do you come to people's houses? Like, I wish I'd have known that before we moved. And I'm like,
Where's that? You're like,
you know,
wow.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I've had maybe one or two people where I'll get the, oh, okay. And I'm like, I know, you know, it sounds, they're like, no, just not what I expected to hear. But
Right. Well,
really,
that's good.
Yeah, haven't had, and like you said, some people have, but not, I have not had very negative reception
Right.
of it, which is amazing.
I had a similar experience when this lady that I've known for a long time, and she comes off as she's kind of like I thought she was very conservative, and I didn't think this would be in her realm at all.
Sure.
And so I like, one day I just said, well, this is what I do, and this is what I have been doing. So I've been doing it for years until I
Yes.
said to her, this is what I do. And she said to me, well, I always knew you were an intuitive person, but I didn't think
Yeah.
like you knew that. And I was like, kind of like my world
Yeah.
like tilted on its axis. It's
Right.
like,
So you're like,
what's
what do
going
you
on
mean?
here? Like, what is she saying to me?
Yeah,
But that
I
was
love
also
that.
very like I felt seen by her and I felt
Yes.
validated, and that was awesome.
It is, when we get that validation, and I want to touch upon what you said as you were going into this awakening, and you're like, okay, I know there's more. I want to understand this. And
Hmm.
this is one of the things in another article that I was reading that talks about going through ascension is your teachers find you.
Hmm. That's
They
true.
really do. And like you said, you kind of happened upon Diet. I happened upon her also at, just I was at an event, and spirit's like, "Well, go talk to her." But it was, asking about classes. And even now when I look at, we're doing a mentorship program together.
Hmm.
And when I look at that and how that organically came up, and I look at other people who, even, colleagues that I'm working with to understand and develop some common abilities that we have, how these people just kind of fall into our lives.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And they fall in at those times where, maybe we're unsure, maybe we need that validation, and then all of a
Hmm.
sudden it's like, oh, here.
Right, here you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really find it amazing just how spirit, because and I think you and I have had this conversation of, we go through these periods of feeling stuck,
Hmm.
and like,
Yep.
oh, I'm not getting anywhere. Spirit, like, you wanted me to do this. I gave up so much stuff to focus on this, and you don't feel like you're making advancements. And then all of a sudden it's like, there it is.
Hmm.
So it's that divine timing, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
When we talk about total awakening and enlightenment, I feel like, and they talk about in the article it being about a unity with all. The complete death of our ego, the death of seeing things just as self, and
Hmm.
really looking to become in oneness. And I don't feel like this is something that, I mean, none of this just happens overnight. But I feel like in a total awakening, this is something that it's happens within grace,
Hmm.
and it's an ongoing. Good morning, Ellie. Ellie says good morning to us.
Hey, Ellie.
It happens continuously. Like, I don't feel that you ever get to a point within your spirituality where you're just done.
Oh no, you're never done. I
Right.
think you get insights. It's kind of like there's a song I'm in the middle of writing. It's like you're at the top of the mountain, but the world doesn't mountain top, but the world doesn't stop. And then you
Yes.
have to go back down and play another round to get, and you're learning along the way, but you're never going to be here.
Right. And I love that you brought up your music, because
Oh
that
no.
is she's like, "Oh no, dang it. I did it to myself." I love how creative you are with
Hmm.
putting your thoughts into words,
Yeah.
into, just expressing that. Do you feel like, because sometimes, like, in some of the ones that I listen to, it almost reminds me, or I feel more pulled to meditate into what you're
Hmm.
saying. Do you think
Exactly.
that's
That's great.
Yeah, do you feel like that's part of your meditative process, or
I do. I feel like because I oftentimes I go for walks, not with my earphones in, like in nature, hopefully when I can get
yes.
out there. And I feel like I kind of think up of songs, and for whatever reason, I have to like rhyme compulsively. I don't
Okay.
understand where that comes from, but I always tend to rhyme my lyrics. And it's not even a very interesting rhyme because it's like 1 2 1 2 over and over again.
Right.
But I find if I have something that's like weighing on me or that I want to express, then I can get it out there, and that's very therapeutic because I can. It's fun to like get the sounds in there, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that the music itself is what's therapeutic. I think it's the words that I'm
Yes.
putting out there, and the music is meaningful in that how it can make people feel, and hopefully I'm trying to make them feel like how I felt, or give them a different perspective on things.
Absolutely.
And that itself, I've had a lot of that's been really important to me because I think if I didn't have GarageBand where I couldn't synthesize things, or if I
Right.
couldn't get my music out there, I'd be a very different person.
Do you feel that as you progress and continue through your own leveling up spiritually, that and this kind of just popped in, so I really feel like it's from spirit kind of planting a seed, that you will release or do meditations like that for others?
I don't know. I kind of see how it goes. That's an avenue that I could do, but I have not ever really explored much of.
Yeah.
And it's fun for me. And so I
Yes.
share it with people that I think will enjoy it.
Yeah.
But and I did actually at one point have a CD that I gave to like everybody that I knew, but I
Oh,
haven't done
awesome.
that for a long time. And I had a teacher a long time ago who worked with me to like record some songs,
Okay.
and now I just use GarageBand. I could relearn the guitar and do that again, but I'm just seeing where it goes. I'm not really seeking out any opportunities,
Right.
but I might in the future for
Yeah,
sure.
I feel because it, like I said, that just kind of popped in, and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be a really good idea.
Yeah, I'll have to keep it in the back of my mind for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that people could experience when they're going through ascension. And we were kind of talking behind stage earlier, and you're like, how are you? I'm like, good. But I am really going through, again, like this process of feeling alone, even though I know I'm
Hmm.
not. And it's because I think, spirit brings us to certain paths within
Right.
within our own journey. And as we explore those or we look at those things, we realize, it's a winding road.
It
And
is.
and sometimes the path is narrow, sometimes it's wide, but sometimes we're just meant to view those things with spirit,
Hmm.
go through those
Right.
things on our own. How have you dealt with, because and I know like in class, sometimes there are just these huge emotional, I want to say, like outcries or
Hmm.
showings as we've all processed through this together. How have you dealt with some of the negative or more frustrating aspects of going through your ascension?
Well, I spend a lot of time by myself,
Yeah.
and so I'm able to kind of process it.
Right.
When I get really upset, I tend to like go for walks or hikes and think about things and kind of try to calm myself down. And I find that when I do that and kind of ground myself, then I come back with a much better perspective on things,
I
and
like that.
I'm able to like talk to the person who's upsetting or whatnot, and I might still be upset about it, but I'm able to at
Right.
least talk to them and like work through it because
Yes.
then once we get that out there, because at least for me, a lot of times I'm like holding on to something and it's because it's
Right.
scary to like let it out. And then when I am in a somewhat calm place and I can be like, hey, I'm upset because this is how I felt, this, and then we can like kind of talk about it in like calm
Absolutely.
terms. And
Right.
then I can kind of just let it go and then continue on my way. And a lot of it is like kind of negotiation of
Right.
with yourself and others as you make room for yourself and they make room for you.
Yes.
Um, that's kind of how it's been. But yeah, it's been sometimes if things come up and I feel like I should be better at handling this than I am right now. Why is that? And then
Right.
kind of going off and giving myself like a talking to or just being like upset in my head. That's kind of what I do.
How do you handle, because it's one thing in the physical world to be going through ascension and dealing with, us changing, things within our lives changing, and making sure we're holding space for people that we need to hold
Mm-hmm.
space for. How do you deal with it though spiritually? Because I know, and you talked about, sometimes there's negotiating, and I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know that I negotiate with spirit, but there's definitely times where I feel like a petulant child where I'm like, no, no, we're not talking about it. It's not happening. And it's like, really, I feel like sometimes they just kind of grab me by my shirt collar and drag me along. Like, no,
Right.
yes, this is what we're doing. You don't have a choice. And I'm
Right.
digging my heels in
Yep.
because spirit, they really know what's best for our higher selves.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's in, and I'm working on coming to that trusting of they do know, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to trust the different avenues that they take me into. But have you found yourself in similar situations
Oh
where
yeah.
spirit's really ready for that advancement and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
no flipping way, no.
I do, because when I started doing readings at Peaceful Heart, which is in
Yes.
Oregon, so initially I said, "Hey, can I help out at the store?" And so I was working at like cashiers
Okay.
and whatnot, but I really wanted to do readings, and I just wasn't confident enough to be like, "I'd
Right.
like to start doing readings." And so it was like 6 months after I was helping them out, and I helped them out for like a ridiculous small amount of time,
Yeah.
and they let me do it because they needed help, but I think it was Spirit being like, okay, so this is not the role that you're supposed to be in here, but we're just gonna get it there. And I think the
Yeah.
hardest part of me of this whole process was doing readings for people and kind of being like, so I'm here, I'm just showing up, and I'm gonna trust that something will come through for me for
Yes.
whoever wants a reading, and I'm not gonna put any of myself in it. And that
Right.
kind of still continues to be one of the harder things because you get all excited and nervous about readings, and then you realize that it's not really about me,
Right.
but I have to be in the right place to give this reading, which makes it even harder sometimes.
Absolutely. It does. And I like, how you said being open to spirit, because I have found too, when I do events or when I have a table set up at a venue and people will come by, and an event I was at this weekend, and I was talking to some of the other vendors and they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, today I'm leaving it up to spirit. And, because it's like, sometimes I hate to say, okay, today I'm only doing mediumship readings, and then somebody comes and they really need fulfillment with psychic information.
Right,
Or saying, okay, today we're focusing psychically, and then you have somebody sit down and say, I want to talk to my husband. And
right.
so I've really just started trusting,
Mhm.
and when people will sit down, and I'll ask them, is there anyone specifically you want to connect with, or is there a question that you specifically want answered? But I have found in me being open to spirit bringing in whatever information or communicator the person needs,
Right,
generally the people sitting down are equally as open.
right. Yeah,
And so it's again that energy that we're putting out and bringing back in.
yeah, for sure. And I must say that when someone does sit down and say, "I want to talk to my dead husband," I just feel an immense amount of pressure. Um,
Right.
And then I'm like, "Am I gonna deliver?" Like, "Oh my god," and that kind of is a problem for me because
Yeah.
then I'm not as open as I should be. Instead of just saying, "Okay, we'll see what we find." It's
Right.
like, I have to make this amazing for this person and or what are they gonna think of me? And
Yeah.
so I
Well,
kinda get stuck in my own head that way.
absolutely. And I think we all have that fear because we understand, all of us, and especially, you and I have had this conversation. We want people to know we're authentic. We want people to know we're
Right.
genuine. And we also realize the vulnerable state that people come to us in.
Exactly.
If they're sitting down with us, you're sitting down because you're struggling with some choices. You're looking for
Mhm.
clarity, you're struggling with a loss. So we understand that. And so I think that's
Right.
where that fear comes from. It's not a and my husband and I will talk about this because I was really the same way, and I still get nervous when I do readings. But
Yeah.
he's like, "You do readings all the time. Why are you nervous?" Well,
Right.
because I know how important it is to this person, and you don't
Right.
want them to have a bad experience. Does that make
Right. I
sense?
That makes sense. And so when I do readings at Peaceful Hearts, usually if they buy something, it's free. They can tip me if they want, but I don't say, I like just, you give me your money. That's not what it's about. Because I'm really there just showing up. I don't have anything there. But I think you talked about like being closer to like the oneness with everybody. And I think when I do readings for people, that's when I really understand that we all have our struggles and we're all working on something. And that's kind of given me a lot of understanding about how we are connected, because everyone kind of has a similar theme, wanting to be their ideal stuff or getting to a place where they are a job they want to be and whatnot. So that has kind of made me see how we all have things that they have the same themes that we're working towards.
And I think I just want to pop in. Tristan had just popped in and said thanks for the advice about insomnia. Mm-hmm. And I really hope it helps. But as I was pulling that to just say, I hope it helps, I also think you might want to check on your throat chakra, because as I clicked on it, literally like I'm like, I had to mute and I'm like dying on the opposite end of the camera. So Tristan, just something, I don't know if you work with chakras, if you do energy work, but just look at that throat chakra, because now as I'm getting that out, I'm feeling better. So I just wanted to throw that out there for you. And I hope that's helpful. Well, before we cut to our break, Miss Dorothy, and you're going to come back, Miss Dorothy is going to do the cards for us. Tell everybody where they can find you if they would like to get a reading with you.
Okay. Well, I am at Peaceful Heart every other Thursday. And so
where is Peaceful Heart?
It's in Oregon, Wisconsin. It's this very cute little, I shouldn't say, it's actually pretty large. They have lots of really cool things, like a lot of stones and trinkets and a lot of good books, and they're pretty friendly staff there. And otherwise, I do have an email called balancedmedium@gmail.com, which I need to start checking because I had it for a long time. So that's, if you did want a reading from me, that's where you could connect with me.
Perfect. And if you could, after the show, share that email with me, because then I'd like to share it on your poster too, so people know where they could find you.
I'm going to make sure I said it right. I don't know if it's the balanced medium or balanced medium, so I have to double check on that.
Okay, but we will, guys, if you are looking to reach out and connect with Dorothy, check the banner for the show. I'll make sure that I pop that in there so you all know where to find her. We are going to take our last station break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's coming up next week, what's going on with the station, and then Dorothy is going to offer you guys a bit of guidance. So start thinking about what you need guidance on and setting that intention for the message, and we'll see you in just a second.
Thanks.
Ellie Weisensel's Psychic Medium is a medical intuitive that specializes as a body code practitioner. As an energy healer, Ellie offers additional services that allow her modalities to be intertwined with energetic healing. Within your subconscious lies information that knows everything about you and why you deal with specific conditions. The subconscious can be considered the blueprint to your entire body. With Ellie working physically with your subconscious mind, we detect what negative emotions are trapped and where they are stored within the body that is causing you your emotional and physical pain. This work is designed to remove imbalances and correct them energetically, getting to the root cause of why you have your condition, to help balance your body so it may heal itself. Your body is infinitely wise and wants to be in balance. The body code is not only gentle for humans, but it is also a gentle process to help animals. For more information, contact Ellie Weisensel at the website below.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is just about 10 to 10. You are catching the last part of Chat with Charlie. I am your host on WLTK-DB, Stephanie Lynn, and I am being joined by Psychic Medium Dorothy.
Hello.
If you're just tuning in, hop back on. You can catch us on Podbean if you'd like to download and listen to it later. Because there's a lot of good information. We all have kind of gone through symptoms of spiritual awakening. And so we kind of talk about what we've dealt with, some of the side effects of that. A couple things coming up on the station. And I know this says network, I have to fix it. But on the station, check out the link for the schedule. Lots of new shows coming, lots of great guests coming on this week for all the shows. There's a show for everybody. So please help support the station, check it out, get on there and find some shows that help you, that benefit you. That's why all of us are here. That's why we're all doing it. The station also has merchandise. Who does not want WLTK-DB merchandise? And I believe we are having a sale right now. So go check it out, enjoy the discount, and sport some gear. So somebody did ask me, and I'll just pop this up there. It might be a little bit long. What I have going in my diffuser. And today, actually, I use Swiss Use products. Today, I have Harmony going in my diffuser. It's kind of hard to see. It's very citrusy. It makes me feel a little bit better about life. So maybe something you want to check out, but that's what I have going in my diffuser today. So Miss Dorothy is going to, how many cards are you going to pull, my dear?
I can pull a couple. How many would you like me to pull?
What do you feel led to pull?
3. I'll just
all right.
3 cards.
I was hearing 3 too, but I'm like, I'm not going to tell her. Let's see what she comes up with. So everybody set your intentions. You can pick all 3. You could pick just one of them. And Miss Dorothy is going to give you some inspiration for the week.
Can I tell them where I got about my deck?
Absolutely.
So the deck I use, it's the Medicine Woman Inner Guidebook, and I found it randomly in a used bookstore. I found the book first, and then I had to order the cards. And I really like this deck because it's pretty much has a very positive outlook on most everything. And so
awesome. I like positive outlooks.
We do, yeah.
And before you pull cards, I want to quick jump in here for Tristan. I don't want to miss this question.
Oh, no problem.
Yes, for the energy work, when there's lots of things you could look up on the internet if you're doing Reiki to work on clearing that throat chakra. Maybe there's some things that you're not voicing. Maybe you don't necessarily want to voice them out loud, but just writing them down and kind of letting that go and getting that out of your system will help. And feel free, shoot me an email, chatwcharlie@gmail.com. If you have any more questions, and I can try to help you with that. All right, Miss Dorothy.
So I'm all ready. I'm going to pull the first card, which is the blend card,
Ooh.
Temperance. And so I'm going to look that up to kind of give you some things, because this one has kind of a different take on that, on the traditional. I think there's 21 ones, so it's 14. So the traditional name is Temperance, but the number meaning is 14 with integration. And the Medicine Woman energy they gave to it is the Rainbows Blend.
Nice.
And so it's kind of about blending everything into your life at with a way that works for you.
Yeah.
And allowing yourself to relax and to give the perfect blending of all that is within you and all that you're capable of doing. And they do have like the card speaks thing, which I'm trying to summarize.
Right.
And they talk a lot about vibration and how it can be changed by kind of your mental outlook.
Absolutely.
And so setting yourself into a positive mindset and drawing from different areas in your life so that you can blend everything into like the perfect stew or soup. And then you can use it to refresh you and others.
And how much more perfect when we're talking about ascension and pulling everything together. They give us the blend card. So we can't make this stuff up, guys.
No. And it says this is just the right moment for everything. If you find that your path is blocked, then just back off and then take time to integrate the new information, see how you can move forward with it. and just all about the kind of right and harmonious action to take in your life with also getting feedback from other areas.
I love
So
it.
that's card
It's a
number
great
1.
message.
Yeah, that's why I love this deck, because it does have pretty great messages. Even if you get like the death card, it's like they have a good spin on it.
Don't
It's
freak
like
out.
no
Yeah.
one likes getting that card, but watch, I'm gonna pull that one next because I
Yeah.
just talked about
That's
it.
okay.
So then the 4 of Stones are
Okay.
next, and they use different terms for like they have pipe stones, arrows, and bowls, and bowls are kind of that's the cups.
Okay.
And the stones are otherwise called pentacles. So if people are with different knowledge of
Okay.
that, but the 4 of Stones is more about basic survival of things. So just when you're on the beginning of things, there's kind of obstacles or patterns that are not tested.
Right.
And if you are going on a new venture, it can be kind of tricky. But kind of prioritizing what you want and things you cannot live without, and then going from there to ensure that you have that, and then maybe making a list of things that you want, but having that as a good route, and then
Yes, a good
going from
foundation.
there. A
Yeah,
good foundation so you can blossom and grow.
absolutely.
That's
Another
good.
great messages from Spirit today.
I know they were excited about coming here. So and so then I have the 6 of Bowls. So the Bowls is the Cups card, and it's all about love, whether it be with somebody else, yourself, or with Spirit. So 6. And then this one is kind of full circle because it's appreciate days gone by. And so that's when you've given a lot of love to something, whether it be a person, object, or an idea, and kind of looking back in retrospect, realizing that you gave all of yourself to that one thing, and knowing that that lives on in some
Absolutely.
aspect, whether it be a memory or a project or a person. And
Yes.
so appreciating all that you have been given and all that you have also given to people.
And I think that's great. We have to remember it goes on, you know?
It does.
The connections, they go on. And so what great messages. Thank you so much for pulling those cards for the viewers. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I hope you enjoyed that.
Yes, I did. And I'm sure they did too.
I hope so.
Elisa, I do see your message. We're not answering individual questions today. There are other shows. If you go on and you check out the station coming up this week, Friday, there should be a reading show that you could always pop on and ask questions. Sometimes we do some psychic and mediumship questions here, but we're not doing that today, unfortunately. But thank you so much for tuning in. So I want to thank you so much
thank you for
coming
having
on
me
today, Dorothy.
That was exciting. I had a great time.
It was fantastic. And I just love that we could openly have a conversation about our journey, how we felt leveling up, and maybe help other people who might be freaking out. They might still be in the freak out phase. Thank you.
Right.
Ellie says, great show. We all love Ellie.
Thanks, Ellie.
Thank you, Ellie. So thank you again. Thank you, everybody who tunes in. I love being here with Spirit to help give you resources, to bring you people like Dorothy, to bring you information. And I'm just so proud to be a part of this station. So please support the station, check out the other shows. And next week, I will see you. I will be joined by the station owner, Todd Bates, and things get spooky. You don't want to miss it. So tune in for the spookiest special. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.